Welcome back once again to the Sonic Board Podcast. We're continuing on with the games of 2019 that we played. And the next game on our list is Astral Chain. Who here played Astral Chain?
I did.
Kind of.
Did you play, Frank?
No, I didn't.
Really?
Huh. Nope.
I'm
getting it for Christmas.
This is a damn shame.
Frank's getting all his games for Christmas, which is sadly after when this podcast is being recorded, but I digress.
Oh, no.
Funk, you want to kick this one off?
Yes. So Astral Chain is a Platinum game, and maybe it's one of the first Platinum games that I've really played through to completion. As I mentioned before during the Sekiro discussion, I'm not really super big on action games. I'm neither really good at them nor do I play them that often. That said, I really enjoyed Astral Chain for many reasons. I think the combat was a lot of fun, not without its issues, but a lot of fun and very easy to grasp and to understand. I think this is pretty typical Platinum games where they're pretty easy to get into, but the ceiling is pretty high. And this game felt like, I don't know what the optimal strategy is, but it felt like there was a very high ceiling to how you approach the combat, what with the different legions and switching between them and optimizing them with different upgrades and what moves you equip and so on and so forth. It felt like there was a lot of depth that I didn't necessarily plunder myself. But the secret joy of this game is that it's more or less a collectathon. And that's where I found a lot of my enjoyment. Each level, each mission has a checklist of different objectives you can find for optional bonuses. Things like finding the bathroom and finding a lost cat, cleaning up all the different, red gunk
like the red
that's sitting around. Yeah, the red matter. It was strangely fun just to kind of run around the stages, doing the scant few side quests that were around and hunting for lost items and such.
Every level had like a hidden boss too.
Yeah,
some which you couldn't get until you unlock the appropriate legion and then backtrack to that previous stage.
That's pretty
like a true collectathon.
That's pretty typical of Platinum. Most Platinum games have like a hidden mission, have like a bunch of hidden missions and or bosses or something interspersed throughout all the different chapters.
At times, this game was surprisingly open world-ish, which I think worked, and especially given that they restricted that to pretty self-contained areas, but that were dense with things to find and explore at your own pace. Maybe my biggest issue with the game was, there's a few issues, like I said, but the biggest one was I forget the name of that hidden realm zone thing where the legions come from. The Astral Plane from Astral Chain. Aesthetically, it was terrible. I hated spending so much time there. It was so visually boring, and I kind of dreaded whenever your character would enter one of those portals. I was like, oh no. Sometimes it would just be a boss fight, and that was relieving because those were fun, and you didn't have to do any platforming or exploration around a very visually boring area.
Some people have called it the frame rate dimension because it's simple because so much of the combat takes place there that you want to optimize the game for the best possible combat. So that's why it's just so flat and simple.
That makes sense. I would have appreciated some varying color schemes, like things that change it up without making it more difficult to display.
I thought it was cool the first time I went there, but because you go back to it so many times and every area is the exact same,
yes, they add different challenges, different platforming elements.
Yeah.
So it's not literally the same area, but it looks like it. And like I said, it was just visually boring. Now I mentioned the platforming, which this game has inexplicably, and it never felt fun. In fact, there's this weird drift that happens. So one of the key elements of the platforming is moving your legion onto a platform, and it kind of pulls you towards it. So you're kind of yanking yourself around, but oftentimes where you land and where you're projected to land via your little reticule on the screen are different. So I'd find myself falling, like I would just drift like a foot off the stage and then just plummet. And it was very frustrating.
I think because it was just, to me, it was largely because of the position of the camera. So like you didn't really get a good sense of depth to where you were going to land because of that.
Yes, and a lot of the jumps were around corners, which also the hooking around corners mechanic didn't work for me very well. I appreciate the whole Legion movement thing. It felt pretty deep in regards to its possibilities in combat. It felt cool to like be controlling two distinct bodies, often doing different things, and like drawing shapes around enemies to immobilize them felt reminiscent of Wonderful 101. It had positives to it, but using that outside of battle was often more clumsy than anything else.
That's fair.
Not a fan of that. There was one more thing. Oh yeah, the camera. Not good. Not good at all. It was difficult to manage. Like, there's a lock-on feature, and being able to keep what you want locked on in view, and then also appropriately switch to other targets as needed was very, very difficult. Definitely a weak part of the game. Not surprising for a 3D action game to have issues with its camera, but here we are.
That didn't bother me that much. The only time it became an issue is when you go into these sections of the astral plane that were like, they weren't the wide open sections, they were more like hallways, and you'd try to fight in there, and you'd back up against a wall, and you would kind of get disoriented because it didn't account for that very well. So I would just lose the enemy sometimes. That was really my only complaint about the camera. Overall, though, like I absolutely love this game, and I think the interesting thing to me was just how this game, like Platinum's games, are kind of hit and miss, or hit or miss for me, and this game feels like one that they took all their good ideas they've had over the years and implemented them into one game, and you can really feel where each element comes from, because elements of the combat feel like Bayonetta, but you also have like the flashiness of Metal Gear Rising, even up to where you just like your Legion just like puts his hand in and rips out the spine, just like in Metal Gear Rising.
There is a bit of like Punk said, Wonderful 101 in there too.
Absolutely.
Weird control stick stuff.
And stuff with like how the presentation and the world design felt also a bit like Nier Automata.
That too. The music is very.
The music is
Nier.
fucking fantastic. Yeah. So like this, it just felt like this was the Platinum game that like completely clicked for me in the way that like I've liked some of their other games, but like this is the one that like put it all together for me. The combat in particular was the one thing that like there's a bit of a learning curve, and it takes like they do smartly layer the things it teaches you on you like one after another, to the point where like it takes you a few hours to get into it. But once you do, and especially once you start picking up the other legions, like when you have that moment of, okay, I'm going to have this attack where I send one legion out and it's out there by itself now, and then I switch to another legion and I'm doing this chain attack now, and all the while you're still controlling your character and doing moves yourself. Like when that clicks, man, it's really, really fucking fun.
It is.
And that was kind of the loop and the grind for me that pulled me through the whole thing. And even then, like the story itself is, I'm not going to say it's serviceable, but it's complete anime, and to the point where like it even has a straight up anime opening, and like I appreciated that kind of stuff so much.
It's a game with a lot of soul, unironically.
And even just like the world design and the design of the legions and just giving you the ability to customize your own character in cool ways that like I wish some of that stuff wasn't so much of a hassle to unlock. Like you gotta find some of it, but just the ability to customize my character to that degree I was not expecting. But like it's just another element of this game's personality that really wins you over.
I appreciated the fact that it looked like pretty much every character in the game was able to be made in the character creator.
Yes. It bothered me
I
when
don't
I
know.
came across someone with like the exact same haircut as me.
I was going to say something. Oh yeah, the characters in the game themselves are very, very endearing. We can talk about that stupid dog and the person
Lappy and Marie.
in the mask.
Marie was great.
It's things like that, because the gameplay is great, and there's a lot of things to like about it. But those little moments are really what made the game something special for me. Like taking a selfie in the dog suit and
Marie and Lappy, all that stuff is pure anime schlock. Like
it's certainly
pure shonen schlock.
But it works.
It works.
The only thing I would say about the storytelling that didn't work was having your protagonist be silent. It didn't feel like the kind of game that needed that, especially because both protagonists are voiced anyways. Because like the one you don't pick is the fully voiced character. And even then, like I believe at the end of the game, after you beat it, like your character gives a monologue. So, like, they have your character speak in rare instances, so why they held back and felt they needed to be silent otherwise felt a little weird. I'm totally fine with silent protagonists, like in other games. This is one where it didn't feel like it needed that.
Because logistically, it doesn't sidestep anything. You play a game with a customizable character that can be either gender, and suddenly all the dialogue has to be recorded twice for pronouns and whatnot, and, I get why people would sidestep that, but there's no logistical reason, seemingly, that
especially
it's here
when
in this
already
game.
Recorded voiceover for
Right.
both characters.
And as a creative decision, it doesn't lend anything to the game, so it's particularly jarring.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. One of my favorite things about this game, and maybe this is true of all Platinum games, is seeing myself get better at it. Like when you look at your ranks at the end of the game, you have the ability to see just how you did on everything. And I just had a steady increase of doing better and better. Getting more. What is it? Platinum is the highest grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing every Platinum game does. At the very end, after you beat the game, it typically does show here's all of the chapters and all the grades you got, basically.
Yeah.
And I think does it have like an overall grade too?
I believe
for the
so.
whole game. Yeah, that's something that every Platinum game does as well.
But being able to just see that tangible progress and how you're getting better at the game, and especially knowing that the game has such depth to it, just feels nice. It's actual progress and development in the player rather than just the plot of the characters. Just actual progression rather than just numbers getting larger.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to your point about it being kind of a collectathon, like that was the thing that surprised me of just how meaty the game was. Like I was expecting like a very quick, like 5 to 10 hour game, and it was like triple that, if not more. Like I think it took me 20 hours to beat, something like that. But like a lot of that content doesn't necessarily feel like it was just thrown in there to pad length. Like that stuff was fun on its own. There are a lot of side missions that like they aren't all winners. Like particularly the fucking car puzzle.
I was gonna say
game was awful, but like a lot of those side missions were very compelling in a way that like typically I'm not big on side missions in games because most of them just feel throwaway. But these ones felt like they involved some of the like kind of tertiary characters that are there, but they don't really have much personality because they're not a part of the story. But those help flesh those out characters a bit more. So there was a lot more in this game than I thought there was going to be, and I really appreciated that.
Let's have a quick rundown of what was your least favorite part of the game, least favorite like random bullshit part that existed, because there was a few. You mentioned the car traffic minigame.
That's the one that stands out to me most.
Was that just the nadir of the game?
Yeah.
I didn't like the timed red matter collection minigame. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
I believe it's that same chapter. That whole chapter was awful.
Because I remember you saying, because you got there before I did, and I remember coming across that being like, this wasn't as bad as people make it out to be, but it's like I do see where you're coming from.
It's certainly bad when you try to do all the optional stuff, and you just want to get back to fighting. And some of the things were cool, like going on the ghost hunt was nice. Tracking down Lappy running around the city was neat. But doing like the traffic minigame 3 times, doing a timed collection thing while contending with the platforming wasn't fun. And then finding that bathroom was also stupid. I made this point when the game was new, but trying to find a usable bathroom in the middle of a city is like the most accurate depiction of Japanese life that I've ever come across. But I'm pretty satisfied with Astral Chain. I kind of bought it on a whim, didn't know much about it, and thoroughly impressed.
The first trailer that they showed, I forget when it was earlier in the year, but like that really sold me on the game, especially with the music and stuff. I was like, okay, this has a tone I like, and the game totally delivers on all of that for me.
Man, you want to talk about a game that delivers? Just hold on, we'll get there.
I know, Matt, you played a bit of it, and we're kind of frustrated with it. So was there something?
Yeah, what was your big problem with it? I know the platforming.
The main thing is I found the combat to be a major miss. I just didn't like how it felt. Granted, I didn't like. I only got to like the very end of chapter 3, so it's not like I played much of the game. I barely unlocked anything, but like even then, like even with the base, like that's the point where everyone's like, "Oh, once you get to chapter 3, everything should click." But it's like, no, not really. Like I felt the combat was just very lacking. It lacked the punch that previous Metal Gear, that previous Platinum games had. The camera is awful. Legitimately one of the worst. Like Platinum has always struggled with cameras for the most part, except for like in any game that's like a third person like this, they do struggle with it. Bayonetta is the only one that I don't remember ever having a major problem with its camera. But
did you play Nier, Matt?
Nier Automata, I played a little bit of it. I have it, but I know that game.
I don't remember the camera being particularly egregious in that game.
No, I'm sure it wasn't. The only other thing I can think of is maybe like Vanquish, but Vanquish is a third person game, and it's not even really. It's a much more different style.
Yeah.
But and obviously one of 101 is top down. But I don't know. The camera is really jarring and made fighting just a chore. It felt like so much of the combat is just watch your dude do things while you don't do anything. Whenever I like the whole like, I felt like the combat is almost like too simple, but also too complicated at the same time for me. Where it's like you have all these random little things going on, like, oh, here's this pseudo blade mode from Metal Gear Rising. Here's this draw shapes like Wonderful 101. There's all these little things, but I just feel like it just felt like here's a Mod Podge of all these other Platinum Games things, and it's like this just makes me want to play those games and not this because it just doesn't feel right here.
See, for me, it was the opposite because like it took all the things that I liked about those games and put it all in this game, and
I can see that
it doesn't 100% click like as a like everything together perfectly, but it's like I still appreciate that they were able to take all the things I did like and just like kind of repackage them in something that appealed to me more than something like a Nier Automata did, because I was like, I mean, I have issues with that game and I've been over it before, but it's like to me this game felt a lot about like how I wanted Nier to feel, and
I don't know, it just didn't feel, the combat just doesn't feel satisfying. You hit things with your baton or your gun and there's no, it just doesn't, it's just not satisfying. It doesn't feel like whenever I finished a battle in this game, I was like, oh, I guess I won. It never felt like it like things are happening on screen, but I felt like I was barely in actual control of any of it. Like it felt like my inputs didn't really do much.
To me it's like the complete opposite.
For me, it's go ahead.
And that's another thing. This game makes my fucking eyes bleed. The the it looks great. It's one of the best looking Switch games, but at the same time, so much of the game is just blue or red. And when you have nothing but blue or red on the screen, it just really bothered me because I could not see what was happening, see what I was doing. It just felt like a mess of colors and a mess of one color, and I couldn't really see any. I had a problem with reading tells from the enemy. I had a problem with dodging a lot. The dodge in this game is just really shitty. And I know it's like, well, it's not Bayonetta, so you can't play it like Bayonetta, which I can understand that. I know part of why I didn't have fun with this game was because I was just not good at it. But I just, again, that's the biggest thing is the combat. I just found the combat to be incredibly not fun and just frustrating to play.
Before you mentioned that, it seemed like you were just sending your guy out and watching him do things rather than doing things yourself. For me, a lot of the depth of the combat was maximizing damage, and the way that was often done was through positioning, like sending your guy out, snapping yourself to him, getting in some chip shots, retreating, creating an opportunity for like a high power attack via time. It wasn't a parry. I forget exactly how the mechanic worked, but you had an opportunity when the enemy would do a certain kind of attack to counter it in some way, and then both you and your guy could pile on damage. And it was more, it was less about button inputs and more about positioning and tactics. Not that it's a very strategic thing, but it was more mental than execution, is what I mean.
I can see that, and I can see maybe I was just playing it wrong. But even then, I just did not find it fun. The combat just really took me out of it completely. I was just getting... It's just so... The controls I didn't like. It felt very awkward. Everything just felt awkward and unsatisfying. It felt like whenever if I'm playing a game and it's like, oh, don't worry, it'll click soon. It's just like I've gotten to the point in my life where if something doesn't click pretty quickly, I'm just gonna drop it because I don't want to waste my time with something that I might not even end up liking, regardless of that. And I don't know, maybe this is the thing. This isn't the first time this has happened to me with a Platinum game, where I'll play it, I don't like it, and then maybe I'll play it later down the line, and all of a sudden I like it. Like that happened with Bayonetta. This happened with Vanquish, and this happened with Wonderful 101. And Bayonetta was just me being bad. Vanquish and Wonderful 101 was me not knowing what the game actually was and how you're supposed to play it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll play it later and be like, "Oh, this is what I was doing wrong." But I don't know. I can't help but feel like it's just not my type of action game.
That's fair. Although I do think you should give it another shot at some point. But like I do get where you're coming from.
I probably will, since I did buy it digitally, so it's not like I can just sell it. I don't know why I bought it digitally, but and also that's the other thing is I know this is another thing I'm gonna disagree with. I find the characters in the story to just be completely bleh.
Really? I thought they were endearing.
I guess some of it is, but I just did not care. Every time I really hated how much fucking cutscenes were in like the beginning of the game, and I really hated. I really did not like the investigation stuff.
Oh, I see. I really love that stuff. Like
it was just so boring and so tedious. And
like it's not like the most compelling gameplay wise, but it adds so much to the tone of the game and what it's going for.
I found it so just pointless. it just felt like it felt like stuff to be there just to be there to like
it certainly
you
wasn't
say
challenging, but
yeah,
I don't know, it helped sell the idea of being a cop.
I just feel like the
Which
story elements and Platinum's writing and story stuff is just not good enough to
Oh,
carry.
you should have played it until the point where Shadow the Hedgehog shows up.
Well, I know Shadow the Hedgehog does show up. Like, is that Daft Punk man?
I don't know.
Or
He does wear a helmet, yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I think there's something he reminds me of. I forget what.
It's probably Daft Punk.
What's his name?
It's just Akira, isn't it?
Oh, are you talking about Akira?
No, it's talking about the character in the game is named Akira.
Yes. I mean, I guess this is a spoiler.
Either way, this game still had also one of my favorite moments of the year.
Oh, is that a spoiler? Okay. But wait, what did you say?
I was gonna say this game had one of my favorite moments of the year. It's just like it is a boss fight towards the end of the game, where a song kicks in, and it's fantastic. That's all I'll say.
I did watch somebody else play through a good chunk of this game and the ending, the final boss at least, and that looks cool. But again, I don't know. It just something about the game just did not click for me at all.
That's fair. Frank.
I'm here.
All right. I know you had to go, but you did want to talk about Catherine Full Body before you do.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out a quick, a couple of words of disappointment about Catherine Full Body.
Was it non-inclusive?
Yeah, so that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
No, don't go.
Yeah, so Catherine is like, it was game of the year all years at one point in time, and
until very recently.
Well, when they announced Full Body, I was really excited because I've been wanting a something in the vein of Catherine for quite some time, because ever since it came out, there was really nothing else that was quite in that vein, both in terms of like the themes and the gameplay. So when they announced Full Body, I was both optimistic about the way that they would handle it and apprehensive about how they were handling the new character Rin, because a lot of what made Catherine work so well was because it was so deeply rooted in this duality, not just between the main characters of C. Catherine and K. Catherine, but there's a lot of just binary imagery and themes in the original game. So shoving in this third character in the form of Rin is obviously throwing that a bit out of whack, but I was hoping that she would be implemented with some grace, well, I should have known from the handling of Marie in Persona 4 The Golden, that when they add new characters in these extended re-releases, they're typically shoehorned in. I wanted to believe in Katsura Hashino and how he would present Rin, seeing as though he had been he had made a couple of statements pre-release of the game about how by including Rin, he's finally telling the version of Catherine that he had initially conceptualized 8 years ago, but he felt that the audience would not be in the right mental state to accept it, I believe was what he had said. So I was like, holy shit, if this was his intention from the beginning, if he's implementing a character that he originally had a concept for to start with, then I had more faith in it. Unfortunately, it's pretty evident that was just lip service, because Rin is just about as shoehorned of a character as you can possibly throw in there. Her introduction to the story is there's absolutely no grace to it whatsoever. Vincent is leaving the stray sheep and runs into Rin, running away in an alley, and Rin ends up with her legs straddling his face. Typical anime bullshit. And the character of Rin is just sort of there to explore some themes about same-sex relationship that was like only tangentially hinted at, because like there's the whole character of Erica, and Toby wants to get with Erica, but Orlando, Johnny, and Vincent all know that Erica used to be Eric in high school, and like Erica, as a character, has a lot of nuance that you would maybe think that they would bring into the character of Rin, but it really doesn't pan out that way, because the reveal that we were all sort of expecting with Rin, that being that Rin has a dick, and Rin is actually a guy. Like Rin's not like trans or anything like that, or like ex-gender, or there was a big speculation that like Rin had no genitalia whatsoever, and Rin was like an angel or whatever. Like, no, Rin straight up has a penis.
Isn't Rin an alien or some bullshit like that?
No, I'm getting to that.
So wait, that's what happens, Jesus.
So Rin starts off with amnesia. Rin does the only thing Rin can remember is that his name is Catherine, spelled with a Q. One
does.
Yeah. So Vincent calls Rin. The scenario that you get to Rin's portion is like it's off the beaten path from the other two. You have to do like Rin's like events and whatnot, and so Vincent checks in on Rin, who has gotten her his memories back, and he finds Rin naked on the floor in his apartment and sees that he has a penis, and basically like runs away after like in shock essentially. And there's a nightmare sequence in the original game where Catherine and Catherine meet for the first time, and it ends in K. Catherine like killing C. Catherine, and then C. Catherine like turns into a demon, and then they like go through like this dream sequence chase together. They ape that in the Rin situation in this one, where both Catherine and both C. Catherine and Catherine and both C. Catherine and K. Catherine are trying to kill Rin, and Vincent, is.
Wait, they're trying to kill her?
Yeah, because like in this dream sequence, remember?
Oh, okay.
Him, by the way, Rin is male. It's literally like draw a girl, call it a boy, but Rin is male.
All right, don't tell my dick that.
Yeah. And so. They changed the ending of the game to reflect this, because the plot of the original game was that the main bad guy was testing cheaters with Catherine, who happens to be a succubus, and Vincent is the only one who managed to pass the test or whatever, and so he's challenging Mutton, saying that it's not right to do this, basically, which is a fine ending for the original game. In this one, it's very much more like Mutton is he's like, all right, your relationship with Rin is unnatural because you're both male, and it's not right, it's not according to the gods or whatever. And it ends with Vincent giving some sort of like half-hearted lip service about how it's the current year. You can't define how how love takes place in the current year, and you should be more open-minded because love can take any way, shape, or form. And so that's where the original game ends. But they added in this extra scenario specifically for the Rin route, where Rin's alien brothers come to try and rescue him, because he's like, oh, you're an alien, up to this point, like, it's like, oh, like, Rin is like an angel or whatever, or that's what the hint is, and like, it's like, oh, you can't get with this human because like you're an angel or this that the other, and then the twist is they're not actually angels, they're just minions, like they're pink and they literally look like minions. So Vincent marries Rin anyway, and that's like we're just adding angels and aliens into this, just cause. Now the controversy, like if you recall, there was quite a big like reset era controversy around this game, and it wasn't because of any of the Rin stuff, but rather because they added in a new ending for C. Catherine, where C. Catherine is like, oh, I love you so much that I actually, like, wish that we could have met under better circumstances. So she uses her, like, succubus time travel powers to go back in time and meet Vincent while Vincent was in high school before he ever met K. Catherine. And the events of this new timeline have altered the reality such that like Erica, the trans character I mentioned earlier, never transitions. He just goes through the rest of his life as Eric.
So the good ending.
That's what So like they're playing it off as like, oh, this is like like everyone's lives are better now or whatever, and so or at least that's what the reset era people would have you believe. And so that like, there was a lot of controversy around that. It's like, holy shit, like this is a transphobic ending, this, that, the other. And like, to me, it's frustrating because like, if they really wanted to have like a same-sex ending, then they should have had like, they shouldn't have been such cowards about it. They shouldn't have had it like be literally with like, draw a girl, call it a boy, like have some fucking balls, like have him end up with like an actual like male presenting person, because like Rin, like even after it's revealed that Rin is male, like they don't go out of their way to use like male pronouns for Rin. They don't like explicitly call Rin he, or like like call it like actual like a gay relationship or anything like that. It's literally just like you can love whoever you want to, and it's whatever. Like not even
this ain't a Lukako situation.
Right. It's
so
like,
is this just a situation where like they're not intending to have a message to this, but people wanted them to have one behind it?
Well, it's more like the message to it is like is done so badly in service to the original game, because the plot of the original game was like in pursuit of like actual freedom, and then in this one it's more like oh, I wanted to tell this story about like I couldn't even tell.
I feel like it's like new content for the sake of new content, right?
Yeah, but it's weird because it's like, oh, I wanted to throw this in for the sake of being more inclusive, but like it really.
But did he actually say that?
He did say that.
Okay.
Hashino said that. He was like, I wanted to have this in the original game, but like I thought that people wouldn't be ready for it or something like that. Like, and like it's so weird because it's like this is the same guy that put like like the Okama couple in Persona 5 that's like harassing Ryuji, or like in Persona 3 like they meet like the transvestite on the beach or whatever, like and like this is like who wants to like go shouting about how like he wants like representation in this game. Like it feels like it's like lip service, and like not
it's
even
also
good
strange
lip
because
service
like
at that.
Yuri and Yaoi content is like, that's not new either. That stuff's been around for a while.
Oh
so.
no, hell no.
It's not even like a Yuri and a Yaoi thing though, because it's like it's just
It kind of is, because it's kind of an anime game.
but like it. I think the difference is that like the original Catherine, like aside from the succubus stuff, like it really didn't have a lot of anime overtones. So like to throw in like this Otokonoko stuff, and oh, Rin is an alien who looks like a minion.
Otokonoko?
Like, yeah, Otokonoko.
That's one way to pronounce that.
How would you pronounce it?
Otokonoko.
Okay, Mister, I live in Japan. Whatever.
To me, it comes off for like even if Catherine as a game handled these issues more maturely than most quote unquote anime stuff would, I don't necessarily think it's bad to have more tropey anime stuff in it.
I just think it's so out of place compared to the original game, especially if you look at Rin's design. She looks like Stephanie from fucking Lazy Town. She has this pink bob cut. Like
She's
she looks
cute.
she looks so out of place compared to the other characters in the game.
You mean he looks out of place?
Yeah, yes, he looks out of. Yeah, thank you. Like Rin is a guy. Yes, like it's
Got
just
him.
it's hand. No, you're right. You're
Wow, you
completely right.
misgendered someone, Frank. You're gonna
Can
go to
I-
hell. Get this guy off Twitter.
Can I just say I love that fucking bullshit about I love it when people say that bullshit. I always wanted to do this. The world just wasn't ready for
That's
it.
what Hashino was like.
I-
Yeah,
I-
I wanted to include this, but
I hate that shit.
but
because,
you guys, the audience, were not ready for
like,
my
the
vision.
fucking-
Like,
I hate it's what's that show called? What's the show called with the Orin High School Host Club? That show has all kinds of like commentation on like gender and gender roles and stuff. It's a dumb comedy show, but it has a lot. It does actually have a lot to say about gender and identity, surprisingly. That show was like fucking 2006.
Yeah, it's not new. It's not new.
This
Like
is
people
not
like
new.
pretend like all this inclusive stuff is like new. And, like,
Japan is way ahead of the curve on this kind of shit.
people
too.
don't give them enough credit, honestly.
Yeah.
But,
And here comes
to me,
here comes Mr. McCatherine over here. Oh, you weren't ready for it.
to me, it just sounds like this wasn't an issue of necessarily being offensive about anything. It was just like he had an idea, he didn't implement it very well, and that seems to be the take I get from Frank on this whole thing.
Right.
I mean, it's frustrating because like the original Catherine handled its themes of sexuality in a way that was really interesting and like it landed fairly well. So to implement this new theme here and to just have it fall on its face so much, like it's frustrating because like Catherine is a game that I really loved. The gameplay is still really good in Full Body, and like as a matter of fact, like the new modes that they've added are really strong. They have this arrange mode with new block types and everything like that. So like if you're playing Catherine for the gameplay, like there's it's as good as ever. It's just the story aspect, like it spits in the face of a lot of what made the original so strong, in my opinion, just because they're offering this half-hearted sort of like, oh, society has changed and now like I can finally express my original vision for this game, and it's like, what? Like what are you doing? Like, so that's that.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah, so like that's that.
Speaking of political commentary, let's talk about the political commentary behind Untitled Goose Game and its
Alright,
support
you
of the
guys-
Labor Party.
You guys can do that. I'm gonna head out.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for
joining
having
us,
me.
Frank.
Goodbye, Frank. Hopefully Goose Game will be inclusive enough for you. Did he leave? Did you hear that?
Tell us about a goose and his game that is untitled.
So Goose Game is a puzzle game. I don't really know how to classify it beyond that. Maybe a mischief-making game, sequel to Mischief Makers.
God damn it! I was going to make that joke.
Simulation.
Goose Sim. So I enjoyed Goose Sim up until a very specific point. I played through the game's levels, and I was having fun. It seemed like the game was going places, and then I got to the end game, and I realized that the game was over. And the air just deflated from that balloon instantly. I liked the controls of the game. I'm not memeing. It was very Goose-like. They kind of executed on that premise perfectly.
Really makes you feel like a goose.
Really makes you feel like a goose. So that was good, but the whole time the game felt like I was in its beginning stages. Like, I had by like the third or fourth level, you kind of master exactly what you need to be doing, and some more thinking about how to do it. But you kind of get into the swing of things, and the game gets less difficult as you internalize what you are and are not capable of. So that's fine. But just when you're expecting them to introduce something new to take the gameplay to the next level, that's when the game just finishes. It just stops. And it was so disappointing because the slight, very slight difficulty curve of the game gave the implication that there would be something else. And when there wasn't, it's like having the wind knocked out of you. Like, I can't express enough the expectations the game set to develop its premise beyond the basic way that it did. So when it failed to do that, I was playing and I said out loud, like, what? Like, it's over? Because you enter this final area of the game and it becomes clear that it's summing up everything that came before it, and it's leading into the conclusion, and it telegraphed it pretty well. I mean, for a final area, it actually executed pretty competently, so that was good, but so much so that it told you the game was ending, and you knew that was it, and you wouldn't get any more levels like you really expected to. So it was extremely disappointing. There's more content beyond the end of the game with like extra challenges and whatnot, but there's no more new areas, and those are really the thrust of the game. Like, all right, I want to finish this area, see the next one. So, disappointment.
Would you have been less disappointed if it was half of its price and you would have been expecting something with less content?
I suppose, given that my problem is with expectations and the way the game set them, yes. But my problem with the game isn't that I paid X amount of dollars for it and it was X length or Y length. It was just, I expected more. And that, I don't think, maybe I internalized something due to its price, but I never went in thinking, all right, this is a $40 game or whatever, $20 game. Do not remember how much it cost. But it should be at least this long. It was just the way the difficulty curve is being set up and things are being introduced, I expected more. So I'm not going to harp on the price. I don't really care about that. If I enjoy a game, I'll pay whatever it costs. I don't care. But yeah, it felt like a waste of potential. Maybe they just didn't have any more design space to go through, and they had wrung that towel completely dry. I don't know, but as it stood, something with the pacing really needed to be adjusted.
It was a very charming game that I watched someone stream in one sitting, and I got my fill from that. So
yeah, this is the definition of YouTube bait. But
I think it's
good.
a bit more than that. It's not
good. It's good YouTube bait, though.
It's not like Goat Simulator or anything like that. This is like a real game.
Goat Simulator is just is literally just like Goat Simulator is like just barely is like half a step above Gary's mod. And it's not even really a game. It's an hour of epic LOL random humor of like.
Yeah, this seems like this has a lot of genuine thought put behind it. It's just like
Goat Simulation.
Like there just wasn't enough.
Goat Simulator is like the turning point from like the 20. I would say like the style of humor from like 2010 to 2015. Where it was like, where you had those like fake MLG Pro montages of like air horns and Doritos, Mountain Dew, like making fun of Call of Duty with like the hit sound effect and all that. It's like the culmination of like all that all in one game, and like, okay, we're done with this humor now.
But also like when you put it that way, I kind of miss that stuff.
I kind of do in some ways. I definitely prefer it to take picture and caption it with when you do X. But the pure Facebook Twitter humor. But
the thing about Goose Game being YouTube bait for me is that other puzzle games have something to their execution, like executing the solutions to the puzzles. But in Goose Game, once you see the solution, there's really no value to going and doing it yourself. Like
Yeah,
actually maneuvering
the
the
thing.
goose isn't the most fun thing in the world. It's just seeing, all right, how can I get a goose to accomplish this? And once you know, that's it. Like that's
Yeah.
the joke.
That's the
It's
thing.
It's fun, but if you were to watch somebody play this game, there's no reason to play it yourself.
Exactly. It's a completely. It's not a game that's even really worth buying if you can just watch somebody else play it. And
Yeah.
I watched 2 people play through this game, and I will say the one person who played through it was a lot more entertaining, but it wasn't because of the game. I can tell you that it was because of the person playing. But it's entertaining to watch. But playing it on your own just seems like doesn't even really seem all that interesting.
Well, I played it on my own, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time up until I was disappointed.
Well, I mean, if you've already watched somebody play it.
Oh, yes,
Like,
yes. I agree.
There's no reason to play it yourself because you've already seen everything that pretty much everything you can do in the game. And it's not
Right.
like I don't like. This isn't like Goat Simulator where I feel an actual like distaste towards it, where it makes me kind of throw up in my mouth a little. It's just kind of like this is just a thing that exists. And so yeah, it's fine, I guess. Did its job.
Boo.
Unfortunately, it came out on the same day as the next game.
Well, it's a real question. Which was the better release of that day?
That is the question of the year.
We may never know.
We may never know.
So, Matt, what came out on the same day as Goose?
We'll know right now.
Huh?
We're gonna find out right now.
Yeah, it was the remake of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. And
I hear that's your favorite Zelda game.
it is.
Is this otherwise known as Link's Awakening Deluxe?
I guess so.
Super Deluxe.
Yeah, so Link's Awakening has been my favorite Zelda game for a while. The original I played the 3. I didn't get into Zelda until like 2012. So, but this was like after Ocarina of Time, Link's Awakening was the second game I bought since it was on the 3DS store, and it was like $10. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. And I went into it with no expectations whatsoever because I didn't even realize like that this was even a Zelda game. And then I was like, oh wow, this is actually a really fucking great game. And it's like, again, the original game is just full of charm and cute writing and a really much more in-depth story. Like, considering that Link's Awakening came after Link to the Past, it makes it feel like Link's Awakening of the two might have actually been the more influential for the rest of the series, like at least in terms of its storytelling. And I guess some of the more weirder ones, like Majora's Mask, and I guess kind of Wind Waker and kind of
Minish Cap, maybe?
Kind of Minish Cap, especially. Minish Cap is very similar in a way. Like they adopted this very kind of cutesy, whimsical writing style that kind of carried on throughout a lot of the series. So yeah, when the remake was announced, I was really excited because I know there was like a big leak I think like at least a year before the reveal in February, I think it was, of this year. Was the direct?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was like
earlier
it was like the big reveal at the end of the direct, and I was like, oh wow, this is an actual thing that's happening. And I know a lot of people were mixed on the art style. I love the art style. I think it's great.
It does look great. I don't know. There are downsides to it because the frame rate of the game is.
Oh yeah, that is one
terrible.
thing. The technical aspects of the game can be a little weird. The frame rate and the kind of weird bits of loading that happen between like the different like what were the different tiles of the game world is a little weird. The frame rate's perfectly fine in the dungeons. It never really stutters in the dungeons. Overworld it can get a little chunky. But
I think it's the blur effect.
It is. That's another thing. The blur effect never bothered me at all.
It doesn't bother me. What I mean is just that effect causes the frame rate to
that effect. It's that I think it's that effect and just the fact that the entire world actually I think loads.
Right.
And so when you're and I think that kind of causes it to buffer a bit when you're like moving from different parts of the world. But yeah, I love the art style, the cutesiness of it. I think actually fits great with the tone of the game. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again: Link's Awakening was never a dark game. It's like the most like I would compare it to like Paper Mario in terms
Matt,
of
you literally kill everyone on that island.
They.
You murder them with your own two hands.
If you were
with
paying
extreme prejudice.
If you're paying attention, you would know that it's all a dream world, so they never existed in the first place. It's all just a dream of the windfish. So they don't really actually exist. And also, like that's the other big part of the story is like Link can't leave the island. So I mean, it's like, well, if he's stuck here, there's no like you kind of have to wake up the fish, or it's a whale, but whatever. But yeah, the game it's pretty much just a better version of Link's Awakening. It is mostly pretty one-to-one. There's not a whole lot of huge changes. It's more like a giant collection of little changes that add up a lot to make it just a much better game. The mini games are way better. They're not just like cute little things that you play once and never again. They're actually kind of fun. Fishing is a lot more involved. The crane game is great. It
can be a little
in a very trolly way. It can be very the physics sometimes just don't make any sense, but it's still fun. All the additional stuff they did, the Water Rapids game is way better from the original. It's a lot more fun to play. A lot of people are critical about the dungeon maker thing, which like it's not great. It's kind of frustrating sometimes because especially with how the staircases work or don't work at all.
I have no idea why they couldn't let you manually link staircases.
It's really dumb how they handle the staircases. Basically, it just automatically connects to whatever staircase is closest to it, even if
except when it doesn't.
Except when it doesn't, for some reason, it just seems completely random, and it gets really annoying sometimes. But I can see that being a very. I can't wait to see speed runs, like 100% speed runs of this game. Where people make the optimal dungeon maker paths to beat them as quickly as possible, where you just have to go through one room and fight a boss.
I enjoyed how much effort I spent into min-maxing the dungeons. Like, how few rooms do I have to go into? The thing is, they should not have hid 100% pertinent collectibles behind the dungeon maker.
I would agree with that. I don't think it should have been I don't think they should have hid. What was it? There was like a seashell, a heart piece, and a full heart container are all behind this, and a bottle.
Yes.
So there's like 4 things. All that are hidden in all that are part of the dungeon maker thing, which is annoying.
Hey, special shout outs to that first worm boss thing for being the easiest to kill. Because I killed him like 20 times.
Oh yeah, everybody did. That's another thing. I do like how they did kind of revamp the bosses a bit. The bosses in this game are way harder than they were in the original game. As much as I love the original Link's Awakening, the bosses are a complete pushover. The whole game is really easy. Link's Awakening might be like the easiest Zelda game that isn't Wind Waker. There's like the one fish boss in the game. He's still a pushover in the remake, but in the original, you can literally kill him before he even attempts an attack. But yeah, the bosses are way better. All the remix music is so good.
It really is.
The animation sequences at the beginning and end of the game are great. The game is just really charming. All the little attention to details here and there. Like you got they kept all the cute little moments that you can do with Marin and made some of them even better. I know a lot of people kind of miss there's like a picture hunting quest that you can do at least in the Game Boy Color game that was all meant to be like for the Game Boy printer. And
that one went places.
Yeah. The problem with that in the original game is that there are ones that were actually missable. So if you got too far into the game, you just couldn't get some of those pictures. There's only 12, but that's what made it like not good in the original. In this game, I could see them having easily revamped it and added more pictures to find to make it more interesting rather than the Dungeon Maker thing, which is actually what replaced it. But whatever. They were trying. It feels like that was just them kind of maybe teasing a possible Zelda Maker in the future. I don't even know. But
if it's anything like that, I'm not interested.
I mean, I'm sure that was just them like kind of being like, hey, I have a cute little idea for a mini game in this game. Let's give it a shot and just like make it really simple and let's not try too hard on it. But yeah, it's great. It's basically just a better version of the original Link's Awakening. Is it worth $60? Probably not, but I bought it for $60 and I feel like I was satisfied. Oh, and hero mode also is a very nice inclusion too. I don't think I don't really think there's nothing out of it other than just bragging rights, but it's not like it's a very hard game to begin with.
A lot of these Zelda remakes tend to be lateral moves at best, like all the Bloom and the Wind Waker, and the changes made to Ocarina and Majora's Mask on 3DS. But I think this one's a pretty clear replacement for the original Link's Awakening.
Unless you really would rather just pay $10 instead of $60. But even then,
price is the only thing.
Price is the biggest issue with the game, I think. I think it probably should have been like 40 or 50 max. But, it's like, Nintendo, so they can get away with it. And that is the one thing. If there's anything that this game fixed, it's the terrible issue of the original game having text boxes appear whenever you try to interact with an object that you don't have the item equipped for.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
So every time you like push against a block you have to pick up, the game's like, oh, this is a block that is way too heavy. Maybe you can equip something to be able to lift it up. And that happens so much if you accidentally like just touch one of those. And it's like, oh god, please go away.
Not to mention they took things like the shield or the bracelet, and you no longer have to equip those items at all.
You're no longer spending half the game just pulling up the start menu to pull it away. And even with that, the start menu comes up a lot. It's just a lot smoother and a lot quicker. So even if you do have to switch around items a lot, it's just a much more more quick and seamless. Streamlined. Yeah, it's a much more streamlined system than it was in the original game. It is just a straight up improvement in every way, unless you're just really that triggered by the art style and think that chibi equals Funko Pop.
Oh, I hate that. I hate these
They
people
don't look
saying
like Funko Pops at all.
They don't.
they look like Nendroids, if anything.
Yeah, like people just see the dot eyes and it's like, oh, it's a Funko Pop because apparently Earthbound and Pokemon characters are Funko Pop now too. But either way, it's great. It's a great remake. I'm glad they made it.
There was you were talking about the start menu. I found it funny that the game kind of has a Breath of the Wild-esque map in it.
Yeah, that was weird. The map is very strange.
It's oddly detailed and it's very functional, but it's not a very big game, and I appreciate it, but it's just strange that so much effort went into the map.
The original game is since it's tile based, like the whole map opens up tile by tile. So when you first open up the map, it's just a bunch of gray squares. So I guess they were trying to kind of emulate that, but since it wasn't tile by tile, they just did it like that every time you enter a new area.
Yeah, and you'll just come across so many new areas by touching one of their tiles that
right.
One of the first times you open the map, like half of it just gets revealed.
Right. It is a little strange.
It's not a real complaint I have. It's strange.
It is strange. It is very strange. But yeah, I'm just very much crossing my fingers for a Oracle of Ages and Seasons remake. Maybe.
What if they went, they Pokemon'd it? Like you still needed to buy 2 copies.
That would be terrible. I mean, they are two completely different games, so they could get away with it. I wouldn't be surprised. No. They're completely different games. They're not the same at all. So,
I've never actually played them. I just know that they have some cross functionality.
When you beat one, you can link. You get it like a special.
You can link.
You get a special. You get a special password to like link your game to the other game, so that the story basically continues from that point. And you get some like bonus stuff too. Like you get like extra like bonus things where like you can talk to characters and it's like, oh hey, here's a password that you can put in the other game. If you do that and talk to this character, you get like a secret ring or something like that. That has some crazy little effect. There's like little things like that you can do in the Oracle games. And at the end of the game, after you've beaten the second game you've completed, there's an extra dungeon. I think the extra dungeon is basically just fighting enemies, but there's that there, and then you get 2 bosses to finish the game: Twin Rova and Ganondorf. Not Ganondorf, Ganon, just regular Ganon.
Pigman.
So it does actually add a lot more content, and I don't know how they would handle that in a Oracle game remake, but who knows? I think if there's any Zelda game they should try to remake next, it's probably Zelda 2, because that's the one that needs it the most. In a very similar vein to Metroid 2.
I'm not sure. A lot of Zelda 2 feels pretty dated in a way that you would have to change a lot to sufficiently remake it for me.
I can see that, but
and I don't think right now there's much of a
new game in style. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how much of a desire there is for that kind of Zelda game.
Oh, I'm sure there's zero. I know that. There's probably absolutely no desire for that kind of Zelda game. But
God damn it, we need the remake.
I can see it happen. I mean, they I wasn't expecting them to remake Link's Awakening. It didn't seem like a game that really needed a remake to me. like besides all the little quality of life improvements. But I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do from here on with Zelda other than Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, that'll last a while.
I think that's all we need for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
Let's get in one more game before we take our last break here. Matt, you want to talk about Disco Elysium?
Oh, sure. So I only played about like 2. Let me see. I bought this game during the most recent Steam sale. I played 2.5 hours of it just last night. And this, after those 2.5 hours, I can already tell I'm going to absolutely love this game for a lot of reasons.
Can't wait to talk to you in 4 hours. Like, I fucking hate this game.
No, this is not a game that you can really. I think this is not a game like that can ever. I feel like that can
ever do wrong.
That can ever do wrong. That can change that drastically, unless it just completely turns into a completely different game. But this game is essentially it's essentially a game that's all it's at its core it's a point and click mystery adventure game. That's all about talking to people and the different ways that your brain works and interprets things. Because you play as a detective who has drunken himself into such a stupor that he's completely lost his memory of who he is, where he is, and like even like what year it is and everything, which is obviously just there to allow you to talk to characters and be like, what year is it? Where am I? What am I doing here? Who am I? So that you can get, lore and background to everything. It's a way to get exposition and everything. But it's still written into the story to make it a lot more interesting. And when you start the game, you have an option to choose between. It is an RPG at its core, like a straight up Dungeon and Dragons style RPG where you have choices to make. There are literal dice rolls that determine the whether or not you succeed or fail at certain things. Whether or not you succeed or fail at certain things is all dependent on your different stats. You have mainly you mainly have stats that are like all the different stats and abilities you have to do with like your ability to persuade people, your ability to lie to people, your endurance, just like your brute strength, which I chose like a thinker character, who is a character who is good at like extrapolating like the events of what happened after looking at the clues in an area, but he's a complete wuss and has like no health. Will easily just barf at seeing a dead body, and like has like very low is like really bad at talking to people. Like there's one point in the game where that's another thing. The writing in this game is really funny and clever. Like there's one point in the game where you're talking to a girl on the phone who is like one of the people who saw this. Like the whole game revolves around there's a dead body hanging from a tree that apparently is a body of a security guard that was hung there by these union members. This whole game basically takes place in a somewhat dystopian fictional country where
Where unions have power.
Yes. Where unions in this area of the country basically are the true police force, and they kind of just taken their own action and essentially are their own government here. It's like a failed like communist state essentially that has devolved into somewhat of an anarchy. There's one point where like you talk to this girl on the phone, and there's vague hints of her being asked out by this like manager at a bar, and you can try to empathize with her to say like, oh yeah, I know you're having these like these relationship issues. I can totally help you with this. And this is one thing that makes the game really fun is so you conversate with people, but you actually basically have
Converse.
Converse. Okay. Sorry. English major, by the way. You converse with people, but you also converse with your own brain and its different thinking parts. And so sometimes you'll have a little thing pop up that says like that's like drama, and there'll be like a little thing there that's like the drama portion of your brain, or like there'll be a thing that pops up on the screen that says like, well, on the text part of the screen that says like rhetoric, which will have something there in relation to your rhetoric or whatever. And there's always like little things like that are like cute. Like when you talk to this girl, like you could say to yourself, like there's pieces of dialogue that you can select where it'll say like the empathy thing will say like, oh yeah, you totally got this, dude. You can totally get this girl to go, like you can save this relationship, bro. And then but you can say like, nah, I don't want to do this. But then like it'll respond back and be like, no, you got this, dude. Go ahead and do it. And it's like, oh god. There's like a dialogue, like there's a lot of little funny things here and there. All the characters in this game feel like real people too. Like you talk to people and they feel genuine. They're not like dumb NPCs in like Skyrim that just kind of walk around and are like, oh, do you go to the Cloud District often?
What a crazy idea.
Like you can actually talk to them, have full conversations with them. Everything they say has something to do that's integral to the overall story. It's very much just a story game, but it's really well written. It's amazingly well written, and how much dialogue there is, and how much just world building there is. It's insane how much there is jam-packed into it. And there's all kinds of ways you can go about things. And all kinds of funny, like crazy little things that can happen. Around the beginning of the game, there's a moment where you talk to this, like, you're staying in a hotel room and you've already stayed there for 3 nights. And the guy at the counter is like, oh, by the way, you owe me 60 reals is like the kind of money in this game. You owe me this for the room. And you can just say like, fuck that, and just like run away from him. So I tried it, even though I had a low percentage of getting it. My character proceeds to dash away from him, jump, turn around, and flip him the bird with both his hands, only to end up running into an old lady in a wheelchair and knocking himself out. And this actually hurts you, by the way. So if you do this and you only have 1 health, you can actually kill yourself by doing this.
Huh.
And it's and when you wake up, you can like, and you can talk to anybody at you can be as shitty as a person as you want. Like you can go up to like you can like there's one guy you talk to that's like his name is literally like I forget what he was. His name is literally like racist trolley man or something. And you have a partner at this point in the game who's this Asian guy, and the racist guy, you know, he does this whole thing about how like it goes into race mixing. He goes into like how white people gotta like us like white people gotta be with our own people and all that. This is something DL would fucking love this game. I let me just say that. Because you can be, because when you when you talk to this guy, how you respond, you can either be like, oh, so you're just a fucking racist, or you can be like, yeah, I can understand that way of thinking. You can just go
this
right
guy
along.
did nothing wrong.
Yeah, you can just go right along with being a pure fucking racist. And this isn't the thing I got to yet, but there are certain points in the game where you can you'll have like you have like a background like thought that you can focus on. Like the one my character is working on is just, where do I live? Because he has no idea where he lives. So it's like, okay, let's try to think about addresses and stuff to figure out where I live. There are one of these like thought patterns that pop up later on in the game, apparently, where after it takes so many in-game hours to do, and after so many hours,
do in-game hours pass through actions, or is there a clock?
There's an actual clock.
Okay.
It just passes over time. So it's not like actions. It's all just goes on its own.
Right.
And after you've completed that thought pattern, or that like after you've completed that, you'll get like a perk that'll have, or a trait or something that can have both a positive and a negative aspect. Like, or you can like go into patterns that will have positive and negative things. Like, for example, you can unlock a perk that will that can increase your ability to be empathetic to people, but it'll also increase your ability to just go completely fucking insane from stress. You also have morale in the game, and your morale can go up or down depending on your actions that you do. And you can like find things that like help boost your morale or help lower your morale. The quests are also kind of funny too. Like there's one point in the game where your character is basically like just like, oh man, I just need a fucking drink, and then it just unlocks the quest, find beer and drink it. And again, like I said, you can be a complete shithead to people, so you can like go up. Like there's this one guy in the bar you're at that's just sleeping at the bar, and if you pass the this like a skill check, you can basically just scream at him to wake him up. It'll just say like scream at the top of your lungs to wake him up or something like that.
So is this game animated? Or is it done through menus?
It's animated. You have a character. It's top down. You walk around. It's all almost completely mouse based. So it's just moving around, clicking on parts of the screen that your character moves to. And the art style, it's like this kind of watercolor art style too. It's very weird and atmospheric. vaguely Fallout-ish. I've heard a lot of people also say it's like the second coming of Planescape Torment, which is a straight up Dungeons and Dragons game. Like literally, it is Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, and also that's the other thing. This game has no combat at all. Like the quote unquote combat that's in the game is basically just skill checks. You just kind of click a thing and you watch your character like attempt to attack. It's all just lore and talking to people and conversing with people. And it's just very interesting, like to play. And it's and that's the other thing. It's a lot of reading. It is like basically like you could probably refer to this as a visual novel in a sense, with how much words there are and how much is described and explained. It's just a very smart detective style game that feels like it has a lot of hard work and love and effort put into it. Unfortunately, it's only on PC right now.
Okay.
It is coming to PS4 and Xbox One next year, I believe.
I want it on my Switch.
I could see this working on the Switch.
It's perfect for the Switch.
It's perfect for my Switch.
What isn't at this point?
Is the Switch the perfect video game console?
No, because it doesn't have fucking themes or folders yet.
Oh. And this is another thing I love about the game. I mentioned this earlier outside of the podcast, but so this game has its own made up fictional countries, cities, races, and ethnic slurs, which I just think is awesome and amazing.
That's some deep lore. All right.
Well, so that's another block of games down. We're going to take one final break here, and then we'll come back to wrap it up with the last remaining games on our list. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back once again. We are in the home stretch, and to start this final segment off, for some reason, Funk wanted to talk about a game called One Night Stand. So, Funk, what the hell is this game?
Well, when I was buying the game, I was looking in the store and I saw something called One Night Strand, and I thought that it was a prequel to Death Stranding, the way that Ground Zeroes is a prequel to Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah,
And it turns out I misread the title. It's One Night Stand,
I see.
not One Night Strand. You can see how I made that mistake. So I ended up playing it, and it's just a very, very mediocre, borderline shitty choose your own adventure game. There's the only gameplay is making decisions. The art style looks very bad, and neither of the two people involved in the One Night Stand are particularly affable. So if the good ending is them getting together, it's not even something you really want to see happen. It does a pretty good job of writing awkward dialogue. Just, whenever you're stuck around somebody who you don't really know and or like, you make that kind of awkward small talk. So the game gave me a very good recreation of not wanting to experience it. I got about half the endings, called it quits, and that's it. But it was a game I played this year, so I talked about it. And that's that.
Well done.
Reading the synopsis, this basically just sounds like a really boring version of The Hangover.
Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know who made this game or why, or even particularly how, but I don't know how most games are made. And
It's apparently based on a free game that the developer wrote for a game jam.
it is basically a Newgrounds game from, circa 15 years ago.
Yeah, seems like it.
Except now you can pay $10 for it.
Isn't it great how all these Newgrounds games are coming out that you have to pay for now?
Oh yeah. I mean, why make something in your free time for fun when you can, charge 20 cents for it on Steam or the Switch store? We're never gonna get Achievement Unlocked 3 or Fancy Pants Adventures 4. Not for free anyway. I remember buying N Plus on the Xbox Live Arcade back in the day, and I was like, well, this is kind of weird, but I guess I can pay for this.
Yeah.
Little did I know. Little did I know.
So was One Night Stand worth your time?
No, it was not worth my time.
Wow, that's a shame.
How much is it?
I don't know, $5, $4.
Okay.
I might have gotten it on sale.
It's
not exorbitantly priced, but it is priced, and I guess that by itself is exorbitant, so I take it back.
I'm glad you found time to play that, but not Atelier Ryza, which you bought but never played apparently.
Hey, there's still time. I had to finish a certain game for today.
Wait, so how do you pronounce this?
Atelier Ryza. I think it's Ryza. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I mean the
Atelier.
Atelier.
It's French.
It is French.
Okay, I did not know that. See,
in my
I've
mind,
always,
I still say like Atelier, but
I always just said it in my mind Atelier.
Well, however you want to pronounce it, this is the newest game in that series. Ryza, Ever Darkness, and the Secret Hideout. Now, I never played any game in this series prior to this one, and the only reason I heard about it was because towards the beginning of this year, suddenly every fucking artist I followed on Twitter was doing fan art of the character from this game.
Yeah,
and you follow a lot of artists.
She has a very thick design that people latched onto immediately, and that's kind of how this game got a bit notorious. But it was clearly effective because I would not have heard about this game otherwise. So yeah, I bought into it, and you know what? I had a really good time with it. It's an RPG like I've never played before because the series' whole gimmick is just that it's about being an alchemist and making your own stuff. So I kind of had to unlearn how to play RPGs because this one, it's basically instead of going to a store and buying everything, or purchasing weapons and shit like that, you make it. You make your weapons, you make your armor, you make your items. It has a very peculiar way of using healing items, where it's you make the item and then you attach it to your weapon and then you can use it in battle as a skill. There's a whole lot of things in this game that's very weird and very not like any other RPG I've played. So it was a bit of a learning curve, especially having never played a game in the series. And even though I've heard that this one revamps a lot of the stuff, a lot of the mechanics and shit, especially when it comes to the battle system. Yeah, it was definitely a bit of a learning curve. But once I got into it, it reminded me a lot of Xenoblade 2, actually. Mostly the battle system, because there's a lot of systems going on in the battle, and you kind of got a lot of juggle things in real time. It's not fully real time. It's kind of like an ATB system from Final Fantasy, the way it works. But you're just juggling so many things, and once you kind of understand all that and when to activate certain abilities and how to activate certain abilities, the battle system is just really fun. But the thing that kind of took me most by surprise was just the system of the alchemy of just making everything that I had to use in the game. I thought that would be kind of boring, and you can so pretty much what I did is you can automate the whole process. You don't have to sit there and pick each individual item that you want to do. You can do that if you want to like min-max your stats and stuff and the skills that you can attach to items. But I largely automated the process. But the thing I found very addicting was that like it has a very comfortable grind of, okay, this item has the ability to unlock a different item if you make a certain recipe. So like finding every recipe in the game and like unlocking new items, which then I could use to unlock further items, like that was kind of fun. It was just like I was on this treadmill of always finding more stuff to make with the alchemy, and it was a really good hook. And then like a lot of the game also just revolves around running around in these areas, which are all like surprisingly beautiful, by the way. Like it's not like a big open world game. It has like it's segmented into smaller areas, but like it still gives you a sense of exploration, and a lot of it is just running around and picking up items that you use in the alchemy. But that never got boring to me. Like I like that collection aspect of it too. So it was just a really surprising game, and not to mention like a very cozy and comfy one, because it's not a story about, you know, being the chosen one or having this huge epic journey. It's just about like you're this girl who's like the daughter of farmers, and it's just about protecting your little island town from the threat that's facing it. So just much smaller scale and just a different kind of pace and style from most RPGs I'm used to playing. So it was a great alternative to those, and yeah, I had a great time with it.
Nice.
You should definitely give it a shot one of these days, Funk.
I do own it.
Oh my god.
I will play it.
I do want to play this game too. Not only like I've been wanting to play in Atelier, is that how you say it?
Atelier.
Atelier, okay. Atelier, sorry. I've been wanting to play an Atelier game for a while.
It seems like the one. Everyone says this is the one you should jump in.
It seems like the one, yeah. And it's funny, I made this comparison a while ago just because of all the controversy surrounding Pokemon. But it's just amazing to me that apparently this is not only like a better RPG than what Game Freak can make in like every way, not just in like the battle system, animations, graphical style, despite being made in like a year. But
they put out 3 Atelier games this year.
Right.
This is the third one, and is also the best of them and the best looking of them. Like
right.
I made very specific note to look at a tree texture in this game so I could compare it to Pokemon, and it looked better than Pokemon.
And not only that, but apparently it also sounds like it's a better style of low stakes game than Town was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Remember Town?
Yeah, Little Town Hero.
Little Town Hero. Oh god.
I don't remember anyone talking about that game when it came out.
That just completely flew under the radar. But I'm glad this game is good. I'm glad this is not just like the one thing that always does worry me about these kinds of games is this gonna just be like another hyperdimension Neptunia shit kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's not a meme game, it's not a fan service game, even though like
it's not just a Coomer game.
Yeah, it's a genuinely comfy and endearing RPG.
And that is what I've heard about the whole series. They're all very much just kind of more comfy, low stakes kind of things.
Yeah.
It's not that aren't like some crazy like Final Fantasy type shit.
Yeah, if you're looking for something more that speed, this is absolutely what that is.
Yeah. I'll eventually give it a shot.
All right,
Funk. How about Luigi's Mansion 3? How'd that turn out?
Well, I'll leave Colin to explain this one. Colin. All right. Well,
thank you, Colin.
Yes, thank you, Ghost of Colin. Hey. So, Luigi's Mansion 3 is the first game of the series that I've played. I will not be commenting on how it.
I almost spit on my drink. Seriously, you haven't played any of the other ones?
No.
I haven't either.
Wow.
I've never played Luigi's Mansion. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never actually played them.
I owned a GameCube at the time. I owned a 3DS at the time, and I just never got around to it.
Did you get your GameCube at launch?
Yes.
I did not.
Oh, interesting.
The game I got with my GameCube was Melee.
So, anyway, Luigi's Mansion 3, I bought into the hype about it, and the games, they never looked boring or anything. I just never played them. So I'm like, yeah, I'll give this a shot. And I was mostly pretty happily surprised by the game. There's certainly a lot of fun parts to it. I like the focus on investigating and exploring and puzzle solving rather than action. I liked the care that went into the environments and animations. I did not like how, when in doing a lot of that poking around and exploring and such, looking for collectibles, you really feel limited by Luigi's move set because you only have 3 or 4 distinct moves that you can do. You can suck, you can blow, you can blow a gust of air under you to pop up into the air, and then you can do a few things with the flashlight. And that's really it for your entire moveset. So a lot of the game just becomes running through those 5 or 6 core abilities on anything that looks suspicious. You don't have enough, I guess, agency in the environment to really solve things in novel ways. It's just, you just suck it, or you just blow it. And
what about Luigi?
Yes, Luigi is just a way of getting to new areas most of the time. I need to suck or blow this thing that's behind a cage that I can't walk through unless I'm Luigi. Or I just need to suck and blow this thing 2 times at the same time. It's so strong I need to suck it twice. Luigi doesn't actually offer you that many new ways of interacting with the environment. So because of that, things just tend to get a little stale. I did not like the way you combat the basic ghost enemies. That gets really tired very quickly. Especially when you have to wrangle them 2 times and keep slamming them against the ground, and it's the same thing over and over. Finding the boos, there's special boo ghosts that you have to find, is also just whatever. It's not that fun. It's just following the controller rumbling around. I wish the game had more and better ways of interacting with it, because that would make... I like exploring, and I liked, poking around the hotel, but I didn't have it in me to find everything, and it's because of how monotonous it became. If things were hidden in different ways that allowed you to find them with just, differently than just doing the same things over and over, it would be a lot more fun, and I'd have more motivation to find the rest of the collectibles. Apparently there's even special secret ghost enemies that I found 0 of, but God knows. There's clearly something here. I just can't be asked to go find it all. Now, playing the actual game itself and going through just the progression of the story is a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the different boss ghosts and the personalities that they had. For a game exclusively about dead things, it did have a lot of soul. And yeah, by the end of my time with it, I felt that I had enjoyed myself. I just wish that I had the motivation to go back and 100% it, which I do not. So overall, it's a pretty solid game. It was a good 7. I would buy another Luigi's Mansion game, but I didn't love it. And that's where I am. Did either of you 2 play it?
No.
I wanted to, but I just didn't.
It kind of... I was going to get it, but I just kind of got bogged down by other stuff that I wanted to play.
It kind of fell on a busy season where so many other things came out.
Yeah. I want to get it. I definitely want to play it. It looks like fun. It looks very... One thing that I noticed immediately was just how animated it all was, and how
Yes.
how bubbly it is.
Yes.
It's got a very nice style that like not only like the animations, but just the general design of the environments and everything look really nice. It might be one of like the better looking games on the Switch too. Like it looks impressive.
It does.
This might be like the closest I've seen a game look like a Pixar type game, I guess.
Yeah, certain models like Luigi's model, Luigi, have a lot of fine detail to them. The basic enemies less so, but the boss ghosts have a bit more going on to them visually. But yeah, it looks quite nice. Everything kind of comes together. There's a lot of good. There's even good voice acting for Luigi.
Oh yeah,
like he only ever
voice
speaks
acting.
like one word utterances, but it's not always just like, well, hey and hoop.
Mm-hmm.
He comments on the situation, and it's pretty cute, especially when combined with the good animations, and Luigi's facial expressions are very well done. It's like I said, it's got soul.
It's good to hear it turned out all right. People were
You
kind of
were
down on
worried?
the second one.
I don't know why. I didn't play it.
Yeah, I didn't play that one either. So
I'm
sure there's.
I think the main reason why people are down on it was because it was a much different kind of game.
Yeah, different
It was
structure.
It was like more of a level based game, not like an open like mansion.
Well,
So
this one is level based as well. You can go around to different floors of the hotel, but each one is pretty self-contained.
But you can like return the earlier floors and stuff though, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's an elevator, and you can just
Yeah.
anytime you're in the elevator, you can go to any floor that you've unlocked.
that's the
You
thing.
can backtrack.
I think 2 was more like literal level selection. Almost like Mario 3 or something. Like I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's
having an environment that felt like it was just one interconnected place
right.
was what was kind of interesting about the first game.
And also, I think that the other thing is people the one thing I don't think people liked about 2 was that it was a lot less like a structured like a horror game. I know 3 isn't exactly a horror game, but it feels more like, from what I've seen, it feels more like almost like Resident Evil-ish
Spooky.
in how it's structured.
Yes, I feel that. Not very spooky, no, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time, Funk.
Yes.
I think it's time for you to tell us what a Strand game is and why you think this is the best game of the year.
Oh no.
So I want to kick this off referencing a tweet that I penned that I want to elaborate on. I said something to the effect of that Death Stranding is not perfect, but it's difficult to conceive of a year in which it is not Game of the Year. What I mean is that it's not the best game of all time, but as an achievement, I think it's difficult to top. So, Death Stranding, I think, is the first time that we've had a big budget AAA game that's unfettered by corporate or market testing. It really feels like a package by an auteur. Whereas even his other games, like Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, those were very popular and very well funded, but their existence was already predicated on Konami wanting another Metal Gear rather than Kojima wanting one. So even if he had reign over those games, they still had that kind of taint to them. Whereas Death Stranding feels completely and organically developed by Kojima in the director's seat. So just going by that alone is a lot to appreciate. But I'm kind of very frustrated by the reception this game is getting. I don't know how so many people are missing the point. Like, anybody who throws around the term walking simulator to describe the game is probably just joking. But
I don't think it's been used derisively towards this game. I think it's just like it's literally what it is. But like it's like actually a walking simulator.
It is and it isn't, because a lot of the gameplay is strategic in nature. Before you set out on your trip, you have a lot of decisions to make via what gear you bring, how you organize it, etc., etc. It's a risk-reward thing, because you're going to have an easier time if you bring a lot of like ladders and such, but you're also going to have a more difficult time because it's, you're slowed down, your balance is off, and if you get into a sticky situation with enemies, then the encumbrance is going to matter a lot more. So when I hear people say it's a walking simulator, I feel like they're undercutting how much gameplay is actually there. Because you can think about a walking simulator like Dear Esther or Gone Home, and there's just no gameplay. Whereas this actually has it in spades. Like, there's combat that's pretty well thought out between the different enemy types that there are. The BTs, which are like those otherworldly figures, the human enemies that come in a few varieties that have different tactics and have to be dealt with in different ways. There's certain portions of the game which I did not see coming, which are exclusively combat zones that are completely wild to me. It blew my mind the first time I went into one, because just the setting of it was so unexpected and so off the wall. Like, did not see it coming. But there's like a lot of distinct flavors of gameplay to the game. And yes, one of those is comfy walking around the countryside. But there's still something going on there during it. I saw somebody have the take that, like, the walking mechanic doesn't even work because you constantly have to balance yourself. And it's like, no, that's
I mean, that's
gameplay right there. That's the gameplay.
Listen, I'm never going to defend Death Stranding, but that kind of sounds like the point.
Yeah, it's
that
like
kind of sounds like that sounds like saying jumping in Mario doesn't work because he doesn't automatically jump.
Right, or because sometimes you fall in a pit.
In a pit.
Broken mechanic. So one of the reasons I really respect Death Stranding is because it uses its gameplay to explore its themes, and B, it's not always concerned with being fun while doing so, which feels like a very intentional choice. But an obvious theme of the game are connections, strands, and that comes out organically in like a number of ways. The strand mechanics being like the biggest one, but another complaint I saw leveraged is that, you don't have to do anything. You just let other people build the world for you, and then the game's just easy. And that doesn't really make sense, because the thrust of the game is that you're expanding your network of connections. Like, each outpost you visit comes into your network's family, and then they receive certain benefits and whatnot. So you go into uncharted territory, finding outpost connected to the network, and only after you connect it to the network does all of the online strand structures and stuff that other people have built populate the area. So when you first venture to new areas, there's nothing there unless you build it. And only once you've done your job of getting it onto the network does that actually materialize in in-game benefits of getting other players assistance. Which makes sense, because that's how you actually build that connection. It actually feels like you're building connections and building a network, because you expand the outreach in which the online mechanics can flower. So it all coalesces in a very satisfying way. And speaking of satisfying, it's strange. I feel like stupid monkey brain. A large part of the game is about likes, and you get Facebook likes and such when you do good things or you make deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually does just feel good to make a delivery in the game, to like be lugging around this like heavy load across however many kilometers to get there, and then you arrive. It's all in one piece, good condition. You get it in, and you get like a couple hundred likes, and it feels good. And part of the story is actually that some of the human enemies in the game got so obsessed with the I guess the chemical release in their brains from getting likes and getting deliveries
you mean
done.
The mules.
The mules, yes, getting deliveries done well, that they'll go out of their way to attack people with cargo so they can go deliver it themselves. And what's funny is that those enemies just won't attack you at all if you don't have any cargo on you. And a lot of things like that just feel very well thought out. The enemies that attack you to kill you, the terrorist enemies, you can't kill them because any corpse that dies in the world has to be incinerated, otherwise it'll trigger a cataclysmic event, given the lore of how the supernatural things work in that game. And that's established early on. So when you meet these enemies much later that are trying to kill you, it's like, right, I can't kill them because that will just cause disaster. And the game just always feels internally consistent like that, both in the incentives it sets up and just its mechanics. And that's something to appreciate. I thought the story of the game was surprisingly coherent. There's a lot of jargon. It's for the names of different organizations and entities and such. But the actual narrative is pretty straightforward, oddly enough. In trailers and screenshots and such, and it just looks like a complete mindfuck. But the actual in-game events are easy to follow, and it's really just, you can decide how much time you want to spend dissecting imagery and symbolism in Kojima's game. Whether or not he's successful in it being there, I'm sure he wants it to be there. And I don't have much of an interest in that. But the real reason that this game works so well for me is that it's a pretty fantastic example of a game that's actually art because of its gameplay. It's not just, oh, I put a fine story and compelling cutscenes around a third-person shooter. The core gameplay informs on the story, informs on how you should feel about it, connects you to the characters in a way that you just don't often see. And I think that's pretty special. So I really liked that. I liked most everything about the game. Some of the missions where the condition of the item is a fail state, can be a little sensitive, which isn't great, having to reload just every time you like fall down or something. But you can also take things slower by just piling up with traversal tools. But I don't know, I guess I was too lazy to go slow. There's something else I wanted to say. What was it?
You did want to say how this compared to Red Dead 2.
Oh yes, I did. Thank you. So Red Dead 2 was a game that was very concerned with making sure you got a certain cinematic feeling. Like you can't run in camp because it doesn't make sense for Arthur to be running around his camp. It would just look silly for him to be sprinting around, so you just can't do it. Whenever you go to the store, you have to open a catalog and flip through pages through arduous animations to get the information that you need, because it's more immersive that way. So Death Stranding has a lot of things like that. If you go to the safe room in your Sam's safe room, you can like take a shower and read your email and adjust your loadout and stuff. And a lot of this is, you see him walking around the room to go to these places and interact with these terminals and such. A lot of that stuff can be done outside of that room as well, just through a menu. and you can just kind of choose if you want to read your email on the screen where you have to get up and lumber over to it, and it's more immersive, or if you just want to do it quick and easy through the pause screen. And it's like, great, thank you for trusting me to make that decision by myself rather than
Also,
forcing me to.
You can just skip the cutscenes too.
Yeah, you can skip the cutscenes. You don't have to read the email. But assuming it's something you want to do, you have ways of doing it kind of in lore and outside of lore, contextualized and not contextualized. It's nice to have that decision where if I value just my convenience over slight immersion, I have that choice. Same thing, just like it does not make sense for this guy who has traversed so many miles and kilometers to come sprinting into the building at the end of his non-time sensitive delivery. But you can do it. It doesn't matter. You can still have this emotional satisfaction of getting into the character's shoes, of making a delivery and being immersed without being constrained by artificial restraints on your controller. So I hated that. I hated that in Red Dead. I fucking hated it. And it's nice to see a game with similar priorities as far as storytelling goes to eschew that in favor of freedom. So, good job, Kojima. Good job.
I do definitely want to play this game at some point. I think the thing that the discussion around this game has been interesting, and I do, from what I've read at least, I feel like most people get what it's going for. It's just an issue of whether that works for you or not. Because I've seen a lot of people say, like, yeah, I love this game, but I can also totally understand why people wouldn't be into it. And that's kind of where I fell when deciding to get it. It's like, I genuinely don't know whether I'm going to love this game or hate this game, and it seems like it's going to be one or the other. Like, there's not... I haven't seen a lot of people say, yeah, it was alright. It's like, you either get the reaction of, man, I really dig what this is going for, or it's just like, man, I am really put off by what Kojima's doing here.
It's I think the crux, or the flashpoint, is kind of if you... And I'm not saying that... I'm not trying to be condescending to either side of this, but I think if you really just want to have fun with your game, it's not a good game for that, because it's not always fun. It's oftentimes it's just kind of mellow. Oftentimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's fun. Other times it's more satisfying. But it's got a larger range of payoffs than just fun, and it's completely reasonable to want to just have fun playing a game.
Like, being immersed in a game, it can be fun in its own right.
It can, but it's part of that immersion. Just with the highs, you get lows,
Yeah.
And when the latter half of, not half, but like one of the end game areas is a lot of mountains, a lot of snowy mountains, and those are difficult to traverse, especially when you're hauling cargo. And it can be frustrating to to take a tumble or to fall down, or you have like these battery powered legs that like give you more footing, and if those run out in the middle of a slope, it really is frustrating, but it feels immersive. So even if I'm not in that moment feeling like I'm having fun, ultimately it's a fun experience. It's just it feels sometimes like work.
There's a really fine balance there, though, because like, that's the thing about games. You have to physically interact with them. So if the interaction itself is frustrating, then even if it's doing everything else right, like, just that alone can kill it for you. And I think that's where a lot of people are coming from when they dislike this game. And I'll be interesting to see if that is the reaction to have, or just like, well, I'm fine with this because it's doing so many other things so great that it's just like, it just becomes a natural part of playing the game.
Right. I think, interestingly, I think the game does a pretty good job of giving you tools to overcome certain frustrating scenarios. There's a lot of optional tools and structures that you can build, that you can use to approach different areas of the game. For example, when I was climbing those mountains, I could have taken a bunch of materials with me, constructed some zip lines to make repeat trips easier, But at that point, I would have to have climbed to the point where the zipline was with a whole bunch of cargo, and I just decided that it might have been easier just to make the trip a few extra times rather than one more difficult time. And that was a trade-off that I decided to make. But maybe if I had approached the game in a different way, I would have ultimately had an easier time by making one instance more difficult. Granted, I have the hindsight now of knowing exactly how many times I needed to go along that route, but you have these points where you can alleviate things for yourself if you're willing to make certain trade-offs. And I think that's interesting. Like that's what a lot of the gameplay is in Death Stranding. It's that strategizing, which is fun. I do like those tactical decisions. So, yes, if that's the kind of thing that sounds appealing to you, then I would wholeheartedly recommend this game. If you like Sim City, maybe you would really like Death Stranding.
Are you interested in trying it out, Matt?
Not really. I kind of lost. I kind of lost interest with it after I think the most recent trailer. Yeah, I just kind of fell off the whole thing when it didn't really seem like when they just didn't even show any gameplay, and then when they finally revealed it, I was just like, oh, so it's basically walking around an empty world.
You're the postman.
Yeah, and I was just like, this doesn't really seem like my kind of thing. Like, I can appreciate that it's not just pushing forward on the control stick, and there's actually some strategy involved in walking. It's just that the thing, Kojima games, I've never really been that huge of a fan of Kojima's stuff. Like, I like MGS 2 and 3, and that's pretty much it. Everything else he's made is, like, either pretty good or not really all that great. Like, the only thing that, like, the main reason why I liked Phantom Pain was because of the gameplay. The story was completely whatever.
Right.
But I like the gameplay. Like, my favorite
what it's worth, real quick, I'm sorry to interject, but in regards to Phantom Pain and its comparison to Death Stranding, I think Death Stranding executes well on both the gameplay and the narrative, whereas Phantom Pain really only had the gameplay. They're very different kinds of gameplay, but I think seeing the amount of care that went to Death Stranding, I think they're comparable. I
can appreciate how much Death Stranding seems like it's just straight up, like, this is just Kojima unhinged.
Yes.
And that I can appreciate. That
for better or worse.
For better or worse. Like, this isn't a Phantom Pain situation where he is just unable to finish the game. And it's obvious that there was some meddling here and there with Phantom Pain to appeal to more people.
But I also think in this case Sony didn't give him an unlimited budget to make this game. So no. I think he was able to better budget out what he wanted to do with this game and achieve everything.
Right. And but that is the one thing. Like, I can play through a game that doesn't have particularly great gameplay as long as the story is interesting enough. Like, one of my favorite games of all time is Fallout New Vegas, and I'm never gonna try to say that game's gameplay is great, because it's not. It's really not. It's very dated and clunky and weird, and it can, like, the shooting is not good. The gunplay in Fallout New Vegas is terrible. It's really floaty, and, like, you basically have to use the VAT stuff and all that for it to even be functional. But it's all worth it just to get the gameplay and all the dialogue and all that stuff. Like, I played a lot of games despite the gameplay. Deadly Premonition is a good example of that. That's a really good example of that.
See, I just think that Death Stranding is not a game you play in spite of the gameplay. I think it's a game that you play because of the gameplay. It's just
And
the gameplay is not always supremely entertaining, but it is still the drive.
See that, and that's the one thing. If it was like a 20-hour game, sure, but this is like a 40-hour game, and that completely turns me off from it. But and I've seen like snippets of the story. Obviously, it's not all gonna. Obviously, if you're only seeing snippets of a crazy ass story like this, it's not gonna. Like, it's gonna probably look stupid if you're just looking at like snippets of it. But even then, everything about it, like, it feels like, from what I've seen, a lot of it seems like MGS4 Kojima, not MGS2 and 3 Kojima.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Which also turns me off from it quite a lot.
That's definitely reasonable. Watching the 2-hour cutscene at the end of the game, it was never bad like parts of MGS4 were, but it's definitely gratuitous like parts of MGS4 were, or flowery, or overwrought. I enjoyed it, but you definitely need to have some amount of patience for Kojima.
I will say, oh yeah.
Well, just at the end of the game, without getting into spoilers, at one point.
Oh, I already spoiled it. You can spoil whatever you want.
Well, Steve
Okay,
might play
yeah.
it. So at the end of the game, there's one part where your character is in just an area with a featureless area, and you're just running around to nowhere in particular. And every so often he'll stop and get tired, and then the story continues. You get some dialogue and such, and some credits play, and then you get up and run around again for like 2 more minutes, and then he sits down and you get more dialogue, and it's very, very, very slow. It's extremely slow, and it's the kind of thing that you really need to tolerate. Kojima. It's like, yes, I respect you. I see what you're trying to do here, but if it was anybody else, it's not like offensive, but it is amidst like a 2-hour cutscene and right at the end of the game after the climax. It does test you a little bit. Not like oh, it's a plebe filter or anything. It's just
it's yeah.
So.
I will say I did see the one scene at the end with with the Die Hard man.
Which one?
His Oscar moment.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say that.
Yeah. That's an excellent way of putting it. Yes.
The acting is pretty good. I will say that.
It's there's so much weird star power in the game.
Yeah.
I don't quite know why, but
Kojima, that's why.
Yeah.
Kojima has his connections.
He does, but I think it made for a better product. The cutscenes were good. The characters were well utilized, unlike Metal Gear Solid 5, where they just cut all Big Boss's lines. It does add something to the game. It never really feels superfluous or unnecessary. It always feels organic, which is great. Good for him. Good job, Kojima.
2 words though.
What?
Princess Beach.
Princess Beach. I forgot about that completely.
What did he mean by that?
Well, the beach thing is it's a very important concept in the game's story.
Yeah.
Yes, but also
in context, it remains a stupid pun.
Is it a spoiler to very mildly explain what beaches are?
Not really. Beaches are just, they're kind of like almost pocket dimensions that exist halfway between I guess the world of the dead and the world of the living. Everybody has a personalized beach.
It's basically like a personal purgatory for people.
Yeah. So that scene takes place on the beach. They're discussing beaches, Right, immediately before that, Sam makes a reference to Mario and Princess Peach, and thus the stage is set for the ultimate dad joke.
It's not even a joke.
Well, you see, Peach sounds like Beach.
It's not a joke.
I
No matter how many times you say it's a joke, it's not a joke.
I laughed, I'll say that. So I would wholeheartedly recommend Death Stranding if
You know what?
any of this experience sounds like something that could be appealing to you, because it's so unique that even if, I mean, it's hard to say like, oh, just try it when it's a $60 game, but even if it's not your cup of tea, I think it's worth trying just in case it is, because it's as of right now, such a unique experience.
I may give it a shot when it's cheap and comes out on sale on Steam, because it is coming out next year on PC.
Right. I'm pretty happy. Maybe I'm pretty happy I didn't spoil myself on anything aside from the Princess Beach pun, which I ended up forgetting. Because there was a couple of moments in the game where I just had a completely dumbfounded reaction in a good way, just like a whoa, and it's nice. I haven't had that in a long time with some games. Death Stranding is a game that across every turn I really wasn't quite sure what it was capable of, and I liked being on my toes like that. And it's got an M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end.
Oh God, no.
I will say I did watch the full ending in a stream a while ago that somebody was playing. It was pretty seemed like a pretty cathartic ending.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't have all the build up to it, but I got the gist of the story. I was like, okay, that's a nice little bow on the story.
Yeah, I joke about an M. Night Shyamalan twist, but there was a twist, but it was earned and it wasn't contrived. So it's always fun to poke. It's fun to poke fun at twists at the end of media, because it's kind of overwrought at this point. But the story was really, really well handled. For somebody like Kojima, who really likes exposition, the fact that all of his exposition was about kind of unknowable, intangible things that just don't exist in reality, as opposed to exposition about the KGB and secret government bodies that could exist in real life, like in Metal Gear, it made it easier to go along with all that.
Or just a cutscene explaining an overly long cutscene explaining how to use a tool to disarm bombs.
Gotta love it.
That will forever be like the worst part of MGS2. The whole monologue that what's his name, Stillman, gives you when you get the coolant to disarm the bombs.
It can't be worse than the escort later on with Atakan's sister.
Oh God.
But Kojima's games have flaws. Death Stranding also has flaws. But
timed underwater escort mission
that you backtrack through.
Timed underwater backtracking escort mission.
Yes. So his games have flaws, but I always find them to be supremely lovable. And Death Stranding is welcome in that family. I respect it more because it's something new. It's a new IP, and it's doing its own thing. So, good job, Kojima. I hope you win Game of the Year at the award show Jeff rigs for you.
All right. Well, I suppose that brings us to our final game of the night, which is a game only I played, so I won't spend too much time on it. But it is Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order.
We really should have just pretended like it came out before Death Stranding, just to end with a bang.
Hey, this game's actually good. Surprisingly,
God.
It's like it was like a genuine surprise that this game turned out to be really good. Because EA has done nothing but fumble the Star Wars license since they got exclusivity on it. So this game, by Respawn, who had never done a non-shooter before, I would describe it as a chimera of pretty much any popular video game idea out there. Like, they saw it and took it and made it into their own game. It's like a hodgepodge of all of them. So you got like the combat's very Souls inspired. The traversal and like set pieces are like very Uncharted inspired. You got literal tombs that you explore with puzzles, like a Tomb Raider game. And like the world design is just straight up Metroid. Like the map, like the physical map that you look at is ripped right out of Metroid Prime. It's like, and that was kind of the secret thing that ultimately clicked with me with this game, is like this is an actual Metroid Prime game in the year 2019. We finally got a new one, but it wasn't by Nintendo, and it was a Star Wars game of all things. And that's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that like they would take their big budget Star Wars adventure game and just make it straight up Metroid, but like it totally works. And that's the crazy thing about it. Like, despite the fact that there's zero original ideas in this game, that it's all like taken from other properties, like all those ideas and all those concepts, they kind of execute well on them. Like, not perfectly. Like, you're not gonna get like the depth of a Souls game with the combat, but like it's enjoyable enough, and it was also like approachable enough for someone like me who does, like I said before earlier in the podcast, I don't have the patience for those kind of things. But this game, especially because like unlike a Souls game, it has like a difficulty setting, so I could lower it enough to where even someone as impatient as me could kind of brute force it a bit through the game. But I still had a lot of fun with it. Not enough that I would necessarily go play a Souls game, but like this is the kind of mass market thing that they could do, and I appreciate that they don't do this with the Souls game. Like, everyone yells at them to put in difficulty options, and I'm like, no, let them make the game that they want. But I still appreciate that someone else was able to take that and kind of make a, like I said, a more mass market approach that like someone like me who maybe just can't get into those games can get into this one. And it was kind of bold to put it in a Star Wars game of all things. So I appreciate that they made that call. What else about this game? Oh, so this is also like a secret love letter to the Clone Wars series. Because it takes place like 5 years after that, and there's so many references to that show that like I'm sure a lot of people just playing the game who never watched that show, like, it's gonna go over their heads. It's not like required viewing to play this game or anything, but there are a lot of neat little nods and callbacks to that era of Star Wars that I was really into. And surprisingly good story, and surprisingly good acting. Like, maybe not so much from the lead guy, but everyone around him like had really good performances. So like the fact that like you take this developer who's making a game totally unlike anything they've ever made before, and that they were able to execute as well on everything except for one thing that I'll get to in a second. But the fact that they were able to come out on top and make a game like this that they've never done before and have it just be so fun and so enjoyable is like crazy. Like, I was not expecting them to pull it off to this extent. All that said, the game has a huge problem which has not been resolved yet, and that is the performance of this game. This game runs like fucking shit. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like I have a PS4 Pro, and you can run it on what's called the performance mode, which optimizes frame rate over the fidelity of the game, so like it lowers the resolution. And even on that, like, I think they did tests, and it's like the game runs at like something like 50 FPS average. Like, it goes up and down a lot. You're not going to get a consistent 60 here. And there are places in the game, man, where you really feel it drop, and drop hard. It also like has weird loading issues with some levels where like you'll be running from like one area of the level to the next, and like the game will just fucking stop for like 5 seconds while it tries to load the next area because you ran to it too fast. Like, stuff like that. The game also crashed on me 5 times, including twice during the final level, which is very, very frustrating. So stuff like that, like, unfortunately like ruined the experience of playing it a bit, to where I would say like if you have any interest in all in this game, maybe wait for some optimization patches to come out, which they haven't yet, unfortunately. Oh God, was there anything else with that I wanted to mention? No, I don't think so. But yeah, it was just like just disappointing overall that the game came out in this state. Like it feels like a game that like could have used a few more months of development, but they needed to get this out before the episode 9 came out. So that's kind of why it's in the state that it's in, which is disappointing because everything else around the game is so good that like to have this to detract from the experience of playing the game is unfortunate. But I would say otherwise, if they can get that sorted out, I would totally recommend this game to just about anyone. Like unless you're like Colin and really fucking hate Star Wars, maybe it's not for you. But it is a surprisingly good game.
Sick. Well, maybe you can graduate to Big Boy Sekiro one day.
Nope.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, and it does definitely feel more like an like organic Star Wars product than anything that has come out recently that's Star Wars related.
Yeah. It's so between this and the Mandalorian, like it's nice to have good Star Wars things again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just wish Deborah Wilson didn't look like a weird bug-eyed freak.
Yeah, God, I don't know what they did because like she's the first. So it's like I feel bad because like I thought her character wasn't human the first time I saw her. Like, that's what they were going for because they just messed up her model so much, which is weird because everything else in the game looks really good. So I just don't know.
That's one thing.
There, but
some of the I can kind of appreciate the jankiness of the game. I know it's like you kind of want games to be more optimized in the way, but it's kind of nice to see a game that has like this weird jankiness to it.
Yeah, I think if they like smoothed out the frame rate issues and stuff like that, the jank of it would still be there, but like not in a bad way.
Yeah. The characters do sometimes look like they're melting a little bit.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes like the textures a few seconds to pop in.
And the Wookiees look like shaved cats.
Just a bit. Yeah, I would say the character design in general is also not great. Like I played that game for like 30 hours or so, and like the main character never really grew on me.
He looks the main character looks like he should be a bully in like in like he looks like the bully from A Christmas Story.
I see where you're coming
Christmas
from.
Carol, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Oh. There's one thing about the game's ending I want to talk about, but it's a spoiler, so do you guys care?
I do not care.
I already know what the ending is.
Okay, so Darth Vader shows up at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't fucking help themselves.
Of course they couldn't.
Of course they couldn't. And it's like
it's also fucking awesome.
Yeah, like they managed to capture the essence of Darth Vader extremely well. But also it's like it was not at all a thing that was like his character was not at all referenced or brought up at any point in the game before that. He just showed up out of nowhere in the game's final level. It's totally a thing where it's like wink, wink, nod, nod. If you know Star Wars, but if you if
you don't know Star Wars, you're not going to know Darth Vader.
But you know what I mean. Like it's there for the fans. It's not really there for any other reason, right? But like I said, they did him justice. But I just wish it didn't come out of nowhere. But I also feel like they felt like they needed something more for that last level because I don't know. The final boss is challenging, but it's like there's not much else going on. But like that was just my feeling when I saw it. It's like, man, you just guys couldn't fucking hold back, could you? Just there he is, Darth Vader.
Just couldn't leave well enough alone.
Nope. But yeah, that's it. Good game. And
was it your game of the year?
No. So we do have to do that. I will say my game of the year was actually Astral Chain.
Really?
Yeah. So this year's kind of weird in that I don't think there was any game I played this year that I would call amazing. So Astral Chain was kind of those games that kind of like It kind of wins by default by being the best good game this year.
Mhm.
Like, it has its flaws. I also, like, I did really enjoy playing it. There was so much about that game that, just how it was designed that was just, I'm all about. I totally love this fucking weird-ass anime game they're going for. But yeah, it was just kind of 2019 was kind of a weak year for games, and that's not to diminish the good games that we've talked about, but it's just like, that was just kind of the best one of the bunch for me.
I feel ya. I have Death Stranding as my number one for reasons I outlined. It's number 2 and 3 are the only 2 other places I have it. It was a tough race between Sekiro and Astral Chain. Ultimately, I gave it to Sekiro, and Astral Chain was number 3, but I thought those 2 were pretty comparable in quality. But Death Stranding,
Solid.
Easy number 1 for me.
Yep. How about you, Matt?
It's kind of cheating, but I guess it would be Link's Awakening.
I mean, it's a game that came out this year.
It's a remake. It is more of a straight up full remake, so I guess it can count. There are other
not
games.
a port.
Yeah, there are other games that I still have to play. I haven't finished. Another game that's technically didn't come out this year was Dragon Quest XI. That I haven't finished.
Technically did.
I guess
like,
so.
If you play the Switch version, that would count.
It is different.
That game also has new content that is not in any other versions. So.
I still want to play DMC5. I still have to finish Disco Elysium. There's a lot of games I play.
Join us next year when Matt gives us his definitive game of the year for this year.
Yeah, I mean it's Link's Awakening if we're counting Link's Awakening.
It's a fair choice.
And yeah, it was. I will say also just kind of a random little addition. Because of the events that happened this year, I have completely kind of changed my opinion on Smash from last year.
Huh.
I had a
positively or negatively?
Positively. So last year I mentioned that like Smash was like begrudgingly my game of the year. Because I remember this because I was very down on it due to all the events that led up to its release at the time.
You finally finished World of Light, and now you're ready to say it's your welcome game of the year.
World of Light sucks ass, but but all the content they added, the new characters, the fact they're adding more.
The fact that Banjo fucking Kazooie is in the
fact
game.
that we got Banjo Kazooie in, the fact that Terry Bogard turned out to be the sleeper best character added to the game, and the fact that after this next character we're just getting more. Whoever the next mystery character is, the fact that we're getting even more after that, it's like, you know what, this game deserves everything it gets. Like
I'm gonna make a bold prediction, and this is not for the last character, but this is for one of the feature characters they're gonna make. Mm-hmm. They will put Waluigi in this game as a character. I'm calling this now.
I can see that happening
because when I feel like they do the next Smash game, they're not. There's no way they bring everyone back. I think they are going to like drastically cut down on the size of the roster, but that would mean this is the perfect time to get him in.
That would be the perfect time.
Yep, we gave everyone what they wanted. Now,
yep,
it's what is the saying? Just because you try really hard doesn't mean you'll get what you want.
The Waluigi story.
Yes. Look, we're gonna get Hat Koopa, and that's the end of that.
Oh, technically, this is a game that also released this year. To the West, Trials of Mana.
It's true.
Yeah, I didn't play it. So.
I didn't either. I got the collection, but I didn't actually play Trials of Mana.
That's the new one, eh?
That is the one that came out in 1995 to just
new to the West.
New to the West.
Well, we got 2 new consoles next year to look forward to. So
What? Really?
yeah,
We got
The PlayStation and Xbox?
yep.
we got a new fucking Half-Life game coming out.
Are you
Yes.
actually gonna buy that, Matt?
No, I'm not spending $500 on to play a new Half-Life game. That's just
No,
that's a
but
prequel.
think of it. You're paying
What?
$500 for a VR version of Gary's Mod.
Oh man, I will say the fact that that's happening does make me very happy. Not just because, like, obviously being very cautiously optimistic because this is new Valve we're talking about here, but
And
the fact
you,
that
Valve.
and you Valve,
It's.
Firewatch dev Valve.
I was about to say they're the ones who are making this. So
Yeah, they're involved. It is apparently Robin Walker, who has been like the main game designer at Valve for a while now. But
I was about to ask if anyone still who worked on those original games is even still at Valve.
and
How does a game designer
Other than,
still
like,
work
Gabe.
at Valve after all these years? What has he been doing every day?
TF2.
Oh,
He's
I
the
see.
he's the TF2 developer, main designer, and Dota. He apparently did a lot of Dota stuff. But just the fact that they're even making a Half-Life game at all, it gives off the impression that maybe they're actually trying to make a comeback now instead of just swimming in their Steam bucks. And
I guess we'll see.
and banning people for exploiting Steam
Children?
I guess so.
Children.
Ban people for exploiting. This was a thing that happened this year. Exploiting TF2 item stock market crashes.
That sounds like a fake headline.
This is a thing that happened this year.
Like college student goes to jail for insider TF2 trading.
Somebody fucked up a line of code that made it so that a hat always dropped with a certain crate in TF2, and so it caused the entire this basically caused the entire Steam market surrounding these items to crash.
All right, did you see that fucking satire headline the other day? It was like Hideo Kojima parts ways with Kojima Productions over creative differences.
That was pretty good.
That's perfect.
Next year has a lot to be excited about.
Does it?
Yeah.
It's got consoles. It's got Half-Life. Aside from what we just talked about, I have no idea what's
consoles.
happening.
Half-Life, Animal Crossing,
Cyberpunk,
FF7.
Yes, FF7.
Trials of
Doom.
Mana remake, Doom.
Animal Crossing. Okay.
Deadly Premonition 2.
Okay. Right, that's 2.
That was the other crazy announcement that nobody expected this year.
Hey, I have a question. How come none of you have Shenmue 3 as your game of the year?
Shenmue 3, the filler arc of video games.
The game that inexplicably came out to no fanfare. At least when Duke Nukem Forever came out, everybody shit on it. Shenmue 3 came out, and I haven't heard, peep.
It's a game that's like there's almost no use shitting on it because the people who want to play are the people who like that shit. So
That's true.
New Ori game, Persona 5 Scramble, apparently the Mega Man Zero collection. That's not really a new game, but Last of Us 2.
Oh no.
Yeah. No More Heroes 3. Pokemon Sleep.
I forgot about Pokemon Sleep.
Pokemon Ice Sleep. Oh god. Xenoblade.
I'm looking forward to that.
Finally gonna actually play that game.
Yep.
It's not a GameStop Wii exclusive.
Doesn't look like shit anymore.
Yeah. New Halo. Maybe they'll make an actually good Halo game for once. Who knows? But yeah, 2020.
2020. Look forward to it. In the meantime, I think we can.
2020. That likely means we get a new Mario and Sonic game.
Oh god.
Okay.
No, because we got it this year.
What? No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I structured my whole year around this.
Well,
What's the... Alright, so of these 3 titles, which is the best? Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda, Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Elusive Age, a Definitive Edition, or Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore.
oh god.
It's got to be the one that has a fucking sharp sign in it. It's not as wordy, but it's seeing it written is just ridiculous.
It's something taken straight out of like the second season to an anime.
I was gonna say it's something taken straight out of Kingdom Hearts.
Dream drop distance.
358 over 2. Maybe it's 35 days over 2.
Wasn't there a Kingdom Hearts game that was literally just Kingdom Hearts 2.5?
I think so.
Like 2.9 or something.
2.9.
Though there's the Lion King 1.5. Lest we forget.
Oh god.
That was a Disney property. Is there a connection?
No
here?
wait, it's what the fuck is this? Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. I'm sorry?
Alright, Kingdom Hearts wins. Shut it down.
Kingdom Hearts always wins. It's fucking the worst.
There's just you know those when you draw a lottery, there's all those balls inside a spinning rotary that you reach in and jumble zone, you take one out. There's just like adjectives in there, and when they're deciding the title of the Kingdom Hearts games, they just grab a few balls out and they're like, all right, definitive, final, deceptive, drop 72 Kingdom Hearts. Like, all right, ship it. We still live?
Yeah. I think it's time to end it, though. We've been going on all night.
It's time to stop.
It is time to stop.
There are many things that need to be erased.
Hopefully not this podcast, but we'll see. In the meantime, let's bid farewell to 2019 and its games.
And say hello to 2019 and its anime.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I actually have to go watch anime because I'm behind on
I put off things to finish Death Stranding, and now it's time.
It is time.
It's time for Beastars.
Beastarsality.
It is time to die.
Oh no.
Let's say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.